Parolski, can you believe it? We're back so soon.
Well, yeah, Nick. All of February long, our episodes come out every week instead of every other week.
Isn't that like a lot of extra work? Why would we ever subject ourselves to that?
It's because over on the Scary Box YouTube channel, we've got months load of content coming out. Project Paranormals that have made their way through the festival circuit, as well as other brand new shorts and additional video content.
Wow, that's exciting stuff.
Nick, where are you going?
Where do you think, Nate? I'm off to check out all the awesome movies we made over on the Scary Box YouTube channel.
All right, that's enough shameless self-promotion. I'm John Parolski, movie producer and the guy who's skeptical of everything we talk about on this show.
I'm Nathaniel Martin, writer and podcast producer extraordinaire. I don't know what I believe.
Nick, do your intro.
Huh? Oh, sorry, I was just readjusting my tinfoil hat, getting it all nice and ready. I'm Nicholas Alexander, lead researcher and storyteller of all things supernatural and unexplainable.
The show to keep you up at night. Or something similarly cheesy.
Well, actually, Nick, for today's episode, I'm going to be the one doing a bulk of the reading.
Thank you.
Nick, you're going to use your investigation strategies to hopefully help us separate fact from fiction. Think you can do that?
I think so.
I don't.
Thanks, Parolski.
Instead of focusing on the supernatural of last week, or the unexplainable of the week before, we're diving into the story of the man behind the bulk of the research on Missing 411, David Paulides, perhaps the man closest to actually finding out what's going on in the national parks of North America. He has made it his main objective over the last 15 years to reopen missing persons cases and document the testimonies of key witnesses to hopefully crack into a new breakthrough.
How do you feel about Politis, Nick? I know you own one of the books, one of the Missing 411 books.
I think he's a very fascinating fella. Has a lot of interesting ideas, and it's kind of wild. Like with some of the, maybe some of the stuff that we'll get into with maybe how he started with it, maybe I'm iffy, but with what he talks about in his subject stuff, I think it's great. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, I'm really excited for all the twists and turns that may come up during this episode.
It's going to be like an M. Night Shyamalan movie. Plot twist.
In this amount of time, he had produced 2 documentaries, self-published 11 books, and kept an impressive documentation of his discoveries over on his YouTube channel, Can-Am Missing Project. We have been using these sources all month as the main pulse of our research, as they are really some of the only material focused on the Missing 411 phenomenon. Today, we are going to do a dive on the credibility of these materials, not because we don't believe Politis, actually maybe the contrary. It seems many have tried to discredit him in these books, documentaries, and stonewall the investigation. We want to find out why. So, over the course of the next 20 minutes, give or take for some comedic asides and our own speculation and theorizing, we're going to see what of David Paulides' discoveries are believable.
So far throughout this month, I've been on Politis' side. I mean, I think that the research he's done, whether or not it's iffy in certain areas, I think that he has accomplished something rather large, and no matter how wild the conspiracies get, it's something he has brought awareness to. So going into this before we start, I'm a Politis stan over here. Whoop whoop.
Hell yeah, Politis, whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah, in doing a lot of my research and writing for this, there's definitely a lot to appreciate about Politis. This is not a Politis hit piece episode. David, if you're listening to this, how about you come on the show and talk to us? Because honestly, I'd love to hear some of your encounters firsthand.
Dave, come on, buddy.
I think he's a very, very interesting person, a very interesting character. But more importantly, I do think he has brought a lot of really interesting things to light and has made a great impact on kind of this phenomenon.
Oh, yeah.
David Paulides received his graduate and undergraduate degrees from the University of San Francisco in 1977. Seeing where higher education would take him, Paulides joined the local law enforcement. After 3 years of walking the beat as a police officer, he transferred to San Jose, where he patrolled as a member of the SWAT team, enforced as a member of the Street Crimes Unit, and even assigned a variety of cases in the detective division over his 20-year career.
That's pretty cool.
Whatever happened to David Paulides? You said San Francisco. That's all I got.
He transferred to San Jose, but, that's close enough. Right state, at least. Complete opposite ends, but go off. If we are the three men from Full House, who's who?
Oh, I'm Uncle Jesse. Fuck you guys.
I don't know who I'd be. I never watched Full House.
I think Nick's Uncle Joey, because he's a goofball.
Yeah, he definitely would have the puppet.
And he'd definitely have the basement. Like, I'd definitely have the attic.
Yep.
I'm fine with the basement.
Once Paulides retired in 1997, one thing occupied his mind: Bigfoot. Soon after patrolling the streets of San Jose, Paulides found himself tracking the North American wilderness for signs of Sasquatch. He knew that this was too big a task for one man. As he gathered testimonials and interviews of Bigfoot encounters from people all over, Paulides put together an organization.
I think this is wild. There's an origin story. There's a case that he did. I don't think some guy just goes out on a whim, just being like, you know what? I'm gonna look for fucking big. There has to be some kind of origin story to that, or just to where like it was just something bizarre to where just like I want to know the origin.
Paulides is like our Batman with our our whole superhero squad we got going on. Because he thought he saw a Sasquatch and then something clicked in his mind and he turned his whole outlook on life.
His superhero name is Bigfoot Man. He dresses up as Bigfoot to fight cryptids.
I think we'll get to it a little bit later, but I think David Paulides is very much against the concept of dressing up as Bigfoot.
It'd be pretty funny, though.
The North American Bigfoot Search was a collective of retired law enforcement, Sasquatch truthers, and private investigators. Over the early 2000s, the North American Bigfoot Search Organization began dividing and conquering the country, taking testimonials and looking for proof of the hairy humanoid. Paulides served as the director and the face of the organization. He would often appear at Bigfoot conventions, events, and even make local news and press when his team of investigators would arrive in areas of high Sasquatch sightings.
You guys know I'm into cryptids more than I am into aliens, so...
Yeah, I heard you're changing the entire next season of the show to be focused on cryptids.
Cryptids.
I joined a Bigfoot group before I joined MUFON. No alien group over
I think
here.
the sense of community in a Bigfoot group would be a lot of fun because it's kind of like a hunting group, where like, guys, you go out in the woods. Yeah, like you just like fuck around in the woods with some
MUFON,
boys.
like it's definitely like inside in like a very dark room.
Looking at really shitty like blurry ass photos all day, and you're like, I think I see the Orion ring that we saw in 1957. Holy shit!
Blurry ass photos and shaky ass videos, bro.
MUFON's like us editing.
Yeah, I feel like with the Sasquatch group, there's a lot more just like beer drinking, eating beef jerky, But with the UFO guys, there's the one guy that's always way too much acid, and then everyone else is like low key either speedballing or they're just popping Ritalin all day. Like they're just trying to get through it.
Yeah, the Sasquatch group is a little bit more laid back.
They're the good old boys.
Just a bunch of guys being dudes.
Paulides also began making several television appearances, like being an interview subject on an episode of 1,000 Ways to Die. The episode titled Myth Busted aired on May 3rd, 2006. Like all episodes of 1,000 Ways to Die, it was reportedly based on a true encounter where a man moved to live in the woods alone. He apparently would get really drunk, dress up as Bigfoot, and scare campers and hikers away from his secluded cabin. After park rangers got many reports of a Bigfoot, they began carrying rifles with elephant tranquilizer darts. And one afternoon, in a drunken stupor, he scared a group of campers, but a park ranger was on standby and fired a dart into the Bigfoot-dressed man. The man died of hypotension caused by the instantaneous etaphorine overdose.
That is awful, guys. Imagine Nick's dumbass going out to pull a prank, and then he gets shot with one of those tranq darts, and then he's fucking dead.
If that were to happen, I'd hope that tranquilizer is nice.
Everybody talks about the Harambe incident from years and years ago, and they were always like, oh, why don't you just shoot the kid with the tranq dart? This is why. This is exactly why.
Why the fuck would you shoot the kid in that case?
Because people were like, oh, Harambe should have lived, so they should have tranquilized both of them.
Did they watch Speed, where like Jeff Daniels is like, always shoot your partner, and then they were like, yeah, let's do that, but with a kid at the Cincinnati Zoo.
Oh yeah, that's Harambe's your guys' hometown heroes.
Ugh.
While this recreation of the faux Bigfoot encounter may or may not have happened, the show is edited in a way to make Paulides look very serious on the validity of the case. This included a warning as to not get in the way of real Bigfoot research because he and others take it very seriously.
You know, it's a reality TV show. Watching Kitchen Nightmares in a Hotel Hell a lot recently. There's like fight scenes and arguments that are ADR'd in, and he's not actually yelling at the people. So, of course, you manipulate the show to go a certain route.
Paulides' work with the North American Bigfoot search wasn't all lights and cameras. At the height of the North American Bigfoot search's powers, Paulides would self-publish 2 books, one in 2008, Hoopa Project, Bigfoot Encounters, and 2009's Tribal Bigfoot. Using the research he was actively gathering, the books were more of a collection of run-ins with Bigfoot and testimonials from those who claim to have seen them. This writing style would be very similar to anyone who has read Paulides' Missing 411 series. If you're someone who believes in Bigfoot, there are plenty of interesting encounters that are excellently documented.
Nick?
You guys believe in Bigfoot?
I was gonna ask that.
Short answer, no. But, long answer, I think it's a little complicated. I feel like we'd have a better photo that isn't just a guy in a suit.
Yeah, that's like something like my dad and I always talk about when we see finding Bigfoot on TV or somewhere. It's like the amount of technology we fucking have. We can't find this hairy ass dude.
You guys know that's always my argument. Nick, what do you think?
To me, if anything, I could see some kind of species still being North America, but I have no idea how they're not found or tracked better. But an ex-girlfriend from high school, she believed in Bigfoot and would always talk about how you knew Bigfoot was near because you could smell brown sugar, and I was always just very baffled by that.
You should have started wearing brown sugar scented deodorant, so every time that you were around, she'd think Bigfoot's near and get scared, so that way you had an excuse to wrap your arms around her.
Fuck, why didn't I do that?
You were over there shaking in your boots because you're like, oh my god, Bigfoot smells like brown sugar.
That's my favorite Pop-Tart flavor.
I'm never eating oatmeal again.
There is a movie that is, of course, a documentary called Harry and the Hendersons, and
so you think Bigfoot's just chilling with John Lithgow, like they're like best friends?
Yeah, you know.
As the decade continued on, the North American Bigfoot search would gather 111 samples of hypothesized Bigfoot DNA. The validity of this evidence was cross-examined by 11 different members of the organization. This group of North American Bigfoot search authors wrote an essay to accompany their findings. The organization would also send off this evidence to DNA Diagnostics, an established veterinary lab headed by Ketchum.
They seem to have their stuff all organized a little bit more than some of the MUFON stuff we've gone over. So policemen, SWAT members, private detectives, whatnot, that are a part of this group that makes them go, we're actually getting our research done.
I was going to say it's probably a mix of like what Nate said, where just like they're just all hanging out, hiking, drinking beer and shit. And then there's the other group where it's like they're actually taking it seriously because they have their own little origin story with Bigfoot. But you're definitely right, a lot more organized than MUFON.
And believe it or not, the North American Bigfoot search proved the existence of Sasquatch, or so they thought.
Damn.
Upon the evaluation of the samples, DNA Diagnostics issued a press release, and on November 12th, 2012, they confirmed the DNA to belong to an unknown hominin with cellular makeup similar to that of modern humans, crossed with that of an unknown primate.
Ooh.
So yeah, Bigfoot's real, scientifically proven. There you go, boys.
Bigfoot is real.
Good recording today, boys.
Well, thank you for watching the Scary Box podcast.
However, DNA Diagnostics and Ketchum put the cart before the Bigfoot, so to speak.
Ha!
The samples weren't peer-reviewed or cross-examined by any other DNA labs before making this very bold claim of a new species.
Rookie mistake.
In the months to follow, there was tons of controversy surrounding the confirmation of this unknown primate, both in the Sasquatch community and mainstream media.
What? By not testing at other labs? What the hell, Dave?
Well, I was going to say, A lot of resistance to Dave Paulides always seems to be pinning it and blaming it on a lot of this Bigfoot stuff that happened, but people don't seem to realize it was the whole organization. It's not like he was the leader and he went and confirmed this. Everybody in the organization was doing this.
Mm-hmm.
The real problem was that the lab that they went to wasn't very professional. I don't know if it was like intentionally fabricated evidence or what the deal was, but yeah, not a good look.
Would you fake your evidence, Nick?
Before
you say anything, we've done almost, 13 episodes of the podcast now, so you settle down.
I would get it tested at other locations to be sure. If I had it to where like 1 was positive and 2 were like, let's say I did 3 locations and one of them was the one they did here. Even though it'd be like 1 out of 3 being like, yeah, this unknown primate, definitely Sasquatch. In my head, it'd be like, it's gotta be.
Yeah, I see you're taking the approach of this like a at-home pregnancy test where, oh yeah, the first one's positive, but the next 2 are negative, but that positive one, you're still like, oh, I don't know about that.
Why buy 3 pregnancy tests when you can buy 1 Plan B?
Today's sponsor is Plan B.
For $50, you can terminate your mistakes of the night before. The essay written by North American Bigfoot Search Team was analyzed by Sharon Hill of the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, a scientific nonprofit organization for fact-checking. She had this to say in her response essay.
Their paper is of poor quality. The few experienced geneticists who viewed the paper reported a dismissal opinion of it, noting it made little sense. All of their analyses either came back as 100% human or fail in ways that suggest technical artifacts.
Following the deconstruction of their well-crafted and gigantic research paper, the Bigfoot research group slowly began to dissipate. While some members are still active in the Sasquatch search, the organization's key members, including Politis, left.
Aww.
Well, rest in peace, Bigfoot.
The Bigfoot League of America.
Bigfoot Finders Club.
People who question Politis' ethics and validity of his other research see that the Bigfoot era of his post-retirement career as a major blight to his credibility. Those that are fans of his work seem to give him the benefit of the doubt. Focusing on one topic for too long can cause you to see a particular narrative. Surrounded by other people who may or may not have been fabricating evidence, Politis gave up on the search for Bigfoot.
You hear me yelling at Nick over here. He's like, oh, yeah, there's a ghost in my basement.
Yeah, his name's Richard. Be respectful, asshole.
I don't need to get killed in the middle of the night.
Richard's coming for you, pal.
Whether or not David Paulides believes all their evidence was debunked and Bigfoot doesn't exist, or he's still secretly searching, one thing is for sure. Paulides still treks the wilderness of North America and beyond, searching for something.
The sequel.
When Bigfoot wasn't enough, one man will stop at nothing to find what's really going on.
One man in their dog.
Dog? With 20 years of law enforcement experience.
Dog, the bounty hunter.
When going through his notes on the first 2 books about Bigfoot, Paulides noticed one major similarity among encounters. And that was a noticeable increase in encounters involving a missing person or disappearance on national park land. Some of the most bizarre cases from his notes involved people just vanishing into nowhere. And if bodies were ever found, they were by a cave system and or a body of water.
Dave's catching on here.
According to Politis, his investigation further down the missing persons of national parks rabbit hole started when he was doing research. An off-duty park ranger recognized Politis and was familiar with his work. This park ranger expressed concern about the questionable nature of some of the missing person cases which occurred in the parks. Politis took this challenge and made it his life goal ever since. One thing of note is, despite now publishing over 10 books in the Missing 411 series, Politis keeps the books strictly informational. While he interjects testimonials of witnesses and people on the search teams, he keeps most of the material strictly factual. He does believe the national parks and their lack of a proper database on missing persons, as well as some questionable investigations, is somewhat negligent. However, he doesn't ever express what he believes is the cause of all of these strange disappearances. He doesn't attempt to explain or theorize about the unknown. Instead, he challenges readers to go beyond their own comfort zones and attempt to draw their own conclusions from his research.
Yeah,
That is honestly, that's like one of the main reasons why I love like his book and just listening to his stuff. Like, I don't know, it where's it just like because of like the lack of information for certain details, imagination goes wild.
it seems very much he's straight to the point. He gives all the facts in the case, and that's it. I've never really, or at least I felt like I've never really heard Paulides' opinion on what's happened.
Judging by the content of his that I've seen on YouTube and stuff, he very much cares about trying to get the truth out there and the facts out there, and I don't think he wants to be known for his opinions.
It's really cool because you think of how journalists will write an article and eventually they'll keep writing on that topic and end up writing a book about it. This is coming from the opposite end of the whole private investigator, detective, police officer side of it, where it's almost as if he's filling out a report and just putting down the factual information and then compiled it into these books.
Well, I know one thing that's really unique about what he does specifically with this is he tracks down people who gave testimonies sometimes decades ago and like re-interviews them and tries to get a sense of what went down that day from firsthand encounters. And I 100% think his 20 years in law experience guide him to giving really, really good interviews and asking the right questions to facilitate facts that might have been left out 20, 30 years ago.
I wonder if he has like a big old like whiteboard or a document just being very specific, like, you know, not making it just where it's like people, you know, next to water. It's like, okay, these people, they were found in trees dead. Like, I don't know, like making it to where it's very weirdly categorized.
Nick's just becoming really nostalgic for our college days of working on short films, and at my apartment on the wall, we'd have all these notes and we'd be connecting it. Nick's like, I need a wall to be able to put those notes. I think Politis had one of those. He used the red yarn, probably used like blue yarn for the water things and linking all those together.
Readers have garnered a ton of conspiracy theories around the missing 411 phenomenon, some of which we here on Scary Box have thrown out in our last 2 episodes. Other, more popular theories and our reactions to them will be our finale on Missing 411 next week. Since starting his research on the mysterious missing persons cases of the national parks, Paulides has traveled a lot. Not only to national parks in the United States and Canada, but he's also visited parts of South and Central America, as well as Australia, to gather data in other parts of the world to compare and contrast. While having multiple frequent collaborators, Paulides has created a community called Can-Am Missing, mostly containing other retired police and search and rescue experts. It appears other credible-seeming people are aiding Paulides and his adventure to find the missing.
Hell yeah.
He's got a little Project Goldmine going on.
I'm putting together a team.
Bigfooters, assemble.
Yeah, I think if you guys are putting together some sort of cryptid superhero comic, this guy's your Nick Fury.
Oh, you're right, Nate. Screw Nick's Bigfoot suit idea.
I'm here to talk to you about the Bigfoot Initiative.
However, David Paulides in his research is not without its critics. Kyle Pollack, a data scientist and podcaster, concluded this after reading Paulides' books and essays.
These cases are not outside the frequency that one would expect, or that there is anything unexplainable that I was able to identify. Paulides gave no reason for these disappearances, but finds odd correlations for them. For example, 2 women, missing in different years, both had names starting with an A with 3 letters, Amy and Anne. I've exhausted my exploration for anything genuinely unusual. After careful review, to me, not a single case stands out, nor do the frequencies involved seem outside of expectations.
I just think it's wild that there's not a single unexplainable thing to identify in all of his books. Like this guy's takes a little weird to me.
Yeah. He's just reporting the facts, like, and just, with everything that he's researching and told through testimonials or whatever, but...
Kyle's also being a little bit of a headline reader over here, where he's like, I'm going to pick out the name, like, that's when you're overcomplicating.
Yeah.
You're trying to, like, find out
yeah.
little specific things that, to me at least, what's the goal here? Not the connection amongst the people, it's the connection amongst the missing. Isn't there thousands of these people? I'm sure there are 2 people named John, guys. I'm sure of it.
It can't be. It's impossible.
Another academic and scientific researcher and podcaster, Brian Dunning of Skeptoid, claims researchers have pointed out to many aspects of the cases that have explanations that are well known, just apparently not to Politis. He summarizes many inconsistencies and claims of other skeptics, as well as points out things he doesn't think add up.
Looking at 243 different cases, all of which come from a wide range of decades and scenarios, it becomes very clear that a lot of his claims are incorrect. Though not much can be said in the way of Germanic surnames or wearing red, what's most common is that middle-aged Caucasian men go missing. Out of the 243 cases observed in this instance, 189 were male, 132 were between ages 20 and 59, and 220 were Caucasian. Over and over again, these men were allegedly experienced hikers, had some form of pre-existing health issue, or were of the age where underlying health issues become problematic, were actively engaging in dangerous trails. The polar opposite of what Paulides claims.
I don't think you can say that white men aren't a victim. White men have been oppressed in this country's national parks for too long, and Paulides is making a stance.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. Way to stand up for the whites against national forests and parks.
The missing 411 non-mystery is a virtual clone of the Bermuda Triangle non-mystery. Politis cites missing persons reports from national parks, and not even he asserts that they are at an unexpected rate. And though a few are never found, the majority all have one of the usual explanations. The Bermuda Triangle would be unknown if it were not for the efforts of a few imaginative authors who cited actual disappearances and then made all sorts of insinuations of mysterious conditions and inexplicable circumstances, cloaking ordinary but tragic events with an air of mystery. Missing persons in national parks would never have received any undue attention had not David Paulides done exactly the same thing, taking ordinary but tragic events and making all sorts of insinuations about them to weave an air of undeserved mystery. And that's where I think the missing 411 fictional universe should be left. Some ordinary events made interesting only by one author's layer of false intrigue.
Academia hates him. Doctors despise him. Find out why with this one little pill. I do think there are a ton of parallels between the national parks conspiracy or the missing persons cases in national parks to Bermuda Triangle. Like, I think that the thesis of this claim is very strong. I agree. However, I do not think that there is nothing of mystery within these missing persons cases. I mean, even if you assume the most natural and plausible ways that these people went missing or disappeared, and some of the things we looked at in episode 1 of this show don't add up. Like, just straight up, how does one of the world's best trackers of large animals apparently get mauled by a bear or a pack of wolves without a trace or without any hesitation besides a little bit of blood in a mask?
Yeah.
Once again, too, what this recent quote just brought up was the whole aspect of Paulides injecting his own fantasy into it, injecting that storytelling aspect of it. But from the research we've been doing and from Nick just reading paragraphs from the book to us on Discord, I don't get that at all. And I know I said I'm a Paulides stan over here, but to me at least, I feel like there isn't a influence leaning one way, especially if like Nick were to write this book. You know, after every single case, what would he write? He'd put ... or it could be aliens.
Every single one.
Right? You know, like at least, and Nick, you've I think read the whole book, right? The
Oh, I thought you meant the humor. No, I read the whole parts.
And Nick, in 411, the book, from what you've read, is there anything that shows that Paulides is like trying to push a certain perspective?
Just straightforward, with more just factual, with like everything written down from testimonials, and just if anything gives like scenarios for what could have happened and tries to be logical. Like I feel like he tries to be pretty logical with it regarding of what could happen, but then brings in like counterpoints with certain things, like with Bart and everything with that. Just like, you know. Yeah, it's not like it's not like he was invincible against bears or whatever, but it's very weird that a guy with this much experience, like in, you know, just tracking forests and shit, and then just dealing with bears and tigers, you just but I never thought he pushed any kind of like a perspective or anything like that in those books. I thought they were very much up to the reader.
Reading a ton of like excerpts from his books and stuff like that, I get the general sense the tone is conspiratorial or like theoretical to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But it's not pointed to draw a specific conclusion, if that makes sense. He asks a lot of questions of his readers, and he wants everyone to kind of put their own brain on when reading his book and trying to figure out what those loose ends mean to them. So he writes a lot of things to be open-ended, and he also presents a lot of theories for almost every single disappearance. And I could see why like academics and why people with higher education look down on that. But I think like the way his books are structured and formatted actually yield really, really good ways of cataloging information, different points, and using the evidence or testimonials that he gathers, essentially create as many possibilities as possible, not just the ones that he believes in, and not just the ones that he thinks actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
He got so much information out there, and so many people are able to look and discuss it. It's basically like he built this huge game of hunt a killer. There's this community aspect to it that his whole goal was to get people to look into it and to research it. And so think of what he's been able to create. I mean, we're doing 4 episodes on this alone, and without him, I doubt we would ever even have talked about this.
Whether you agree or disagree with the skeptics is for you to decide. It's easy to label David Paulides as a crazy conspiracy theorist, or at least someone provoking others to be. While Bigfoot might have been too hard to prove, shifting his business model to that of a more vague mystery with a bigger scale may be more profitable. As of recording this episode, Paulides has spent an equal amount of time exclusively researching Bigfoot and researching the missing 411 cases. However, he was able to self-publish and sell 2 Bigfoot books, and currently, he has 5 times that amount of missing 411 books. On a surface level, it appears Paulides has found a way to monetize his own curiosity, and I think that irritates some. He's also produced 2 documentaries on the subject, which is more than any he pulled out of Bigfoot.
Yeah, you can go with that moral argument back and forth between him monetizing it or whatnot, but we've said it in previous episodes as well. The amount of money, you know, to buy government documents and whatnot, the amount of money and time. I'm not necessarily saying that he is trying to earn money for the amount of time and effort he's put into the research either.
He's got to make he's got to make a living, but he actually is putting legit, like, you know, he's
not only that, just the research alone has to cost so much money, millions of dollars, dude.
The documentaries, one of them's on YouTube, I think free movies currently still. Interesting.
Yeah, Missing 411 is on YouTube, and Missing 411 The Hunted is also on YouTube, but that one's rental. But
yeah, I've only seen, I think, the free one, which that one's still good. And also,
personally believe that he made a huge profit off of them.
Definitely not.
Because they're documentaries and that style as well. Once again, I think that gets the word out, and especially it being free on YouTube. Like, I stumbled across it before we even decided that we're doing these episodes on YouTube. I was like, oh, Nick and Nate were talking about this before, and so it's saved.
If you are one who is more skeptical of Paulides' intentions, there are some positives that need to be highlighted regardless. Paulides' books publicize the fact that the U.S. National Park Service does not keep an independent list of people that go missing in their parks. While there is a database for incident and criminal reports, it is not widely or consistently used, and it doesn't interface with other criminal databases such as the FBI's. In response, a petition was created to make the department accountable.
Yeah. How much accountability should the FBI get? All of it?
I don't know. I feel like if you're going to have these national parks, I feel like they need to be surveyed and taken account of. Why aren't there monthly patrols just going through, more secluded areas looking for bodies consistently? Hello?
Honestly, that's a really good idea. I didn't even think about that idea. That's actually pretty smart.
Some national parks of North America have increased their transparency significantly, one of which was Bridger-Teton National Forest in Wyoming. This is where the remnants of Gabby Petito were found, after being murdered by her fiancé in a case that got tons of national attention. However, we are still far from making our national park safer, as in the search for her, at least 10 other bodies were found.
That is fucking wild. Think about this, right? What if, one of the people that was, searching for Gabby and stuff was one of the other people, on the search party for the other 10, before her that they found? And just I don't know, finding them, it's I don't know how many years or whatever they'd be missing, but I think that'd just be wild. Just you're searching in the same area-ish, you're looking for the person that you never found X amount of years ago, and literally just looking for someone else, and you find their, I don't know, I think that'd be wild if that occurred.
While giving Politis sole credit for making the lack of missing persons databases a public concern is certainly overly generous. The conspiracy theory obsessed Gen Z in our TikTok and YouTube rabbit holes are full of maps and graphs found in the missing 411 books. Another element of Paulides' efforts that come off entirely genuine, for those who don't think he's just a money-obsessed con man, is the amount of information he gives out for free. On his YouTube channel, Can-Am Missing, he documents his journeys to the parks, as well as gives summaries of his findings. There are literally hundreds of hours of free content and a look into his process, where he rarely pushes his books. It also seems with the amount of travel and continued research he does, a majority of his book sales profits have to be spent on travel expenses.
Honestly, yeah.
I doubt this dude's taking a private jet to go from one national park to another.
Yeah, he's not a televangelist.
Parolski, can you give us a budget breakdown on Paulides' average year?
If I had to guess, $600,000 to $800,000 a year.
Sheesh.
Travel and stay and everything.
Sorry, I had to emphasize Nate's sheesh, because, that's a lot of money.
Clip that, bro.
Now is the time in the show for you, our audience, to make a judgment. Is David Paulides onto something? Or is he enabling his reader base to generate conspiracy theories? Or rather, is his audience enabling him to continue diving deeper? Does his history with cryptid research discredit his current Missing 411 search? Well, boys, where do you stand on Missing 411 now after learning more about David Paulides?
If anything for me, I think my opinion is stronger than before. I'm all about Dave. Go Dave. I'm very much, we talked about this earlier and stuff. I don't think he enables his readers to really make conspiracy theories. There are some cases where they're more bizarre than others, but I feel like we said before, he's very factual and straightforward with his information, trying to make it to think more possibilities of what it could be, with everything regarding similarities and just regarding when bodies are found and stuff like that. To me, I do think he is onto something. I don't know what he's onto. I think it's something that maybe could be almost beyond our understanding, and he's just trying to get to the bottom of it. I'm all in support of what he's doing. I think it's really cool. Either maybe the Bigfoot stuff can be a little discrediting-ish, but But with the direction he took, like after the Bigfoot stuff, I feel like he became a lot more a person to take a little bit more serious in a way. I think honestly for him, like he's just saying how he feels as well, in the fact that like he doesn't know, and in a way is like wanting to get other people involved their own way and try to come up with their ideas and just see what other people can think and maybe or figure out a new hypothesis for what's going on.
Yeah, with Politis books, I personally believe that every time Nick has discussed it with me before we created the podcast, we never really dove into the conspiracy side of it. It was much more straightforward, and I feel like we never really discussed the theories and everything until we had the idea of doing this for the podcast, where Nick and I, every single time we've ever talked about it, the only, I'd say, conspiracy type of thing Nick would ever bring up is it being by the water. Every time we talk about it, we just talk about the weird things about it and never dive into a conspiracy side of it. So I really think, knowing Nicholas Alexander, as you fans may realize, he does dive into some wild conspiracies. So for us to be able to read that and discuss it, not to say normally, but just discuss it and talk about things that happen with it and discuss the facts that happen with it, it is, I think, very open to the audience's interpretation of being able to form your own theories. And truly, that's what it seems that Paulides wanted to do, was be able to get the discussion going.
In a way, bringing like attention to a lot of these like missing persons in like the national parks, like the amount of people just over the years.
I wonder how many people have been turned away from the parks from his books.
I wonder what number that is in this regarding to the national parks and everything he researched, but it's wild.
Yeah, I think he's a very complex person, and I think the work that he does is very complex as well. I think straight up discrediting him, like a lot of people have tried, is kind of easy. Just like it's super easy to 100% believe every little hypothesis or every little YouTube or TikTok conspiracy theory you see about the subject. It's really easy to pick one lane or the other and fully commit to. And I think what makes Paulides so interesting, what makes David so interesting, he's proven himself to be someone who can very much go down the rabbit hole and 100% believe in something. I mean, the man spent over a decade trying to prove Bigfoot. I don't think that that's necessarily a blight against him. I think it shows a lot of restraint, the way that he's handled the missing 411 material, being someone who can very, very easily fall into this zeitgeist of getting to the bottom of it and trying to prove something versus just bringing attention and information to the forefront. I have full respect for Paulides as a writer and as a journalist and as an investigator. I don't necessarily know if I fully believe the motivation behind why he's doing what he's doing, and I don't think that necessarily discredits him either. The story of he was just patrolling the parks and like looking for research, and then this park ranger came up to him and was like, "This shit's nuts, bro. You better fucking check this shit out, man. I know who you are. You're good at what you do. This place is fucking creepy, and there's a lot of shit that ain't adding up."
I like that accent.
I don't believe that was the real inciting incident for him to really dive into this shit. Mm-hmm. I just simply don't, but it's a good story. And at the end of the day, I think Paulides is a great storyteller. And I think it's fascinating that he has done this for so long and continues to do it. I mean, the dude's getting into his 70s and stuff now, and he's still walking this beat and still publishing new books, and I think he gives it the attention it deserves. I do have a couple of critiques about maybe some of the business ethics. I think the bulk of his books could really be condensed, and if he was actually going through proper publication and not self-publishing these, I think having an editor or a publisher who would help condense some of this, or instead of making 9 books that are all like published like once a year or once every other year, really making a stronger, more focused book on this whole thing would be a lot more credible.
Oh, I totally agree. I think what would be really cool is like if
I want pamphlet versions.
Like being able to where you can really just compile like instead of just more categorized by just hunters, making it like a super fuck ton list like very just like specifically categorized, year, whatever, however it should be, or location, like it usually is with the books. But then along with like making it to where you're gonna have it to where it's just like very specifically Dave's personal theories and stuff, and especially and not where it's just like an overall, but especially coming to like very specific cases and stuff like that, to where what he thinks are getting other people's involvement. But I think that'd be really, I do agree with that, Nate. I think that'd be really cool if Dave were to just make everything a little, like compile and make everything a little bit dense into one book, rather than just spreading it out to like multiple books that are all kind of a lot of money.
I want the graphic novel version.
That too. I want pictures.
One thing I do get really, really concerned about is the lack of, same with the Bigfoot stuff. I don't think he's cross-examining his stuff enough. Hopefully, as people are more and more excited about this, and as more and more people get involved with the missing 411 phenomenon, there are other people as well researched as him, because pretty much everything online and everything that's published about this is from one person. And that was the downfall of the Bigfoot thing, was the fact that he got all of this DNA stuff tested in one lab, and then they came out and said that it was real. Not that there's any major theories driven by Politis himself, but when a major claim or a major breakthrough happens, and it's just one guy's word, it's gonna be discredited immediately, even if he's right. That's my biggest critique, is I don't think he's fully learned from the Bigfoot mess. Really needs to get other, really more credible than himself people looking at this, and I think that's what he's trying to do. I genuinely believe that he's on the right track to do that. Dear God, we need like a retired FBI agent looking into this, someone who was the head of the national parks looking into this, and it seems to me that that's just something that's not gonna happen. Also, this dude's getting old, and his books are all about how dangerous the fucking parks are. So can we please make sure he has a big ass team with him moving forward? I don't want to see this guy walking around the woods alone and become one of the missing persons in his book. Jesus.
So we'll keep an eye on Dave. He's wandering off again.
Ironic, isn't it? Anything else, Nick, you'd like to say?
Dave's the man.
Yep, I like Dave. Be like Dave.
Be like Dave. I was about to say he ain't no Zach Baggins, but it was gonna sound like
Are you fucking serious?
Wrong. What I meant to say in a sense of like he's better than Zach Baggins, like because what I meant.
Great. Now 2 more people won't appear on our podcast. Thanks, Nick. I feel like we've been talking about 411 for 12 years and published 10 books ourselves.
Easy, drama queen. We've only spent 3 weeks on it.
Well, that's right, Nate, and next week is our super exciting finale, where we dive deep into popular conspiracy theories about 411, as well as give our final takes on the topic.
While you're on the edge of your seat for next week's episode, check out our newly added content to the Scary Box channel.
Yes! Watch Death Screens. Really proud of that one. I love that one. Please watch Death Screens. Love it.
And the vase, while you're there. I mean, some really cool visual effects are on display. Shoutouts to Andrew P. Roberts.
Shout out to Andrew.
Story by John Parolski. That was like the whole team coming together.
In fact, please just watch all of our short films. We really want to see those analytics skyrocket. This feature film ain't gonna fund itself. Thanks, everyone. Bye.